Hello and welcome to The Actor and the Engineer. My name is Paul James. I am the actor.
My name is Josh Knapp. I'm the broadcast engineer.
Here we go, Josh.
All right, it's Superman. Are you excited? Were you excited? I mean, I know you're a Batman guy, but are you excited for Superman?
Well, I'm a DC guy, so yes.
Okay.
And I believe in the Trinity, Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman. And that was one of the most exciting things about Batman v Superman is that the Trinity was going to be put on the screen for the first time. At least first time like that. And so I was excited. I'm excited about James Gunn's world, his DC world, his tone and his attitude and his knowledge of the world excites me, and I like all the other stuff that he's done. So most of all the other stuff that he's done, I loved the Suicide Squad. I loved
the fact that he started with the Suicide Squad, where it's just kind of like, and then he leaned into the starfish thing. I didn't really like it as much as you did. I know you really liked it, but I mean, it was I don't know. It was a bold choice. All of the choices were bold. I mean, it's old enough to we can spoil it. They set up a whole team and then they all get gruesomely murdered in the first 10 minutes.
How do you put these people in their real costumes on screen? How do you do it? And that is the way to do it. And then have characters that hardly everybody knows about. And then Starro, the starfish thing that you call
it. It's a starfish.
It's a Starro. His name is Starro. Okay. Its name is Starro, the Conqueror. That's the name. Okay.
Put some respect on his name.
It's one of the very first comic books I ever read was the Justice League fighting Starro. So when I found out that's the villain, I was like, oh, okay. and I loved it. I loved it. Yeah. So I was excited about this. I was pumped. I was ready for it. I'm ready for this new phase. I'm ready for people to just slow down, let DC do their thing. DC slows down because James Gunn slows down. Things are not going to be produced or greenlit until the script is approved, and that might be not just by him but other people. But they don't have a Batman cast yet or designed yet because the script is not ready. That makes me excited. And so the first thing I'll tell you about this movie, I sat there like this the whole time. I smiled the whole time. I just did. It was fun. It was exciting. There's some issues. No movie's perfect, but overall, I cannot wait to see it again and again and again and again and again.
Wow. There was a guy who was 2 seats over from me at the movie theater, and he was giddy. Like, he was just giggling throughout multiple parts of the movie. And you could tell that, like, he was catching all of the references that I was not getting. And I'm sure there's so many things that are deeply embedded in this movie that, like me, I'm surface level on the lore of Superman and of DC in general. I can get that, but then once you start digging deeper, it's just kind of like I didn't know about Nathan Fillion's Green Lantern character at all until afterwards, and I start doing some of the research on it. But I mean, it's that kind of stuff where I'm just like, I knew there were multiple Green Lanterns, but I didn't know. I've only heard of or seen Hal Jordan, and that was it. So, but knowing that is an actual character, and then all of the different things that I learned afterwards is just kind of like, I do want to go revisit it. And it's an easily watchable movie. I think that's like a key to this movie is that it's easily, you can kind of, I feel like it is good, like cable movie, a movie that would like, you could jump in anywhere and you'd kind of like be, oh, okay, I know where that is. Okay. Yeah. We can keep going.
Well, with all due respect to what you're just saying, that's exactly how the movie is. The movie just jumps into this world.
That's true. You're right.
I loved the introduction. Whatever it was, 30,000 years ago, 300 years ago, 30 years ago, 3 years ago, 3 minutes ago. I was like, what a way to just go, okay, catch up, people. We're here. This is where we're at.
But we've also, I think that in the same way that we're kind of sick of seeing Bruce Wayne watch his parents die in front of him, we're also kind of sick of seeing Superman as a kid running really fast through cornfields. Like, we've seen it. Like, I've seen it 3 times. So I mean, it's fine. I don't need to see it again. So he just get past all that stuff. So that's smart. It's a smart way to differentiate that. Also, him being beat up and bloodied the first time you see him, it's a shock to him, obviously. It's also a shock to the audience. So it's kind of like, all right, let's move forward. Let's move past the basics and let's get into a little bit more nuanced things. And it does have some pretty big swings as far as the content and the tone, especially the tone of Superman. And I know that Superman is definitely a do-gooder, but it seems like he's really like, they really differentiate him from Lois Lane in this one. And I know Lois Lane, Margot Kidder's Lois Lane, was very kind of no nonsense and very straightforward, but Rachel Brosnahan just holds it down. I think she's probably the best part of the movie for me.
I agree 100%. It's the very first thing I said coming out of it. It's next to Mr. Terrific. She is by far the most interesting thing in the movie. Now, granted, everybody is interesting to me.
Yeah.
And side note, I'll never get sick of seeing Batman's parents be shot in the alley because that's what makes him who he is. No, we're talking about a narrative. We're talking about a movie. We're talking about a story. I appreciate what you were saying, but it is the reason he is the Batman. So,
but how do you reinvent that visually? That's the hard part.
You don't. You do what they did in Spider-Man Homecoming. You do what they did in this new Superman movie. You jump right into the middle of it and you pepper it with things that, like in the Batman, the Matt Reeves film.
2 years in.
Yeah, 2 years in, and that scene when he sees the kid of the murdered victim that he's at his house. Yeah, the kid, and Commissioner Gordon says something along the lines of, yeah, the kid saw it all. And then Batman makes eye contact with that kid. There's the scene in the alleyway right there.
Right there.
So you don't reinvent it. You find ways to tell it that is important to your story you're telling right in this movie here. And that's what James Gunn does. So back to Lois Lane.
Yeah. And so them already have an established relationship, not having the big back and forth and like, ooh, do you know who I am? That whole thing. I mean, it's cute. It's a good kind of farcical comedy type thing that you could play on, but we've also seen that. And we've also seen, there's really not much more there to mine, I think. And so them just moving right into it and their familiarity with each other, it seems like their chemistry is very good. David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan,
outstanding.
And then, but that if they didn't have that, their first real extended scene where she interviews him or she interviews Superman, it wouldn't play as well, I don't think. Like, because you need to know that there's this undergirding of. They don't know, they haven't said this to each other yet, but there's this undergirding of love or this undergirding of support of each other, but then also not letting the other one get away with something or not letting the other one off the hook for something they may say or something they may say that they think. It's like, well, do you really think that or do you not? And I think Lois Lane does a great job of being the cynical one and kind of like poking at the difficulties that he's up against and
the reality
Yeah.
of it. I wouldn't necessarily call it cynical. I would say it was realistic. She's making realistic points of view about the world that they live in. You basically crossed this border. Not basically, you did, and without permission, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, but I stopped a war. And she's like, yeah, okay, that ended well, but you're missing the point. The point is.
She's realistic and he's idealistic.
Yeah.
And he's working from a mind frame of like, don't hurt anybody. Don't let anybody get hurt. And she's looking at that and saying like, that's not doable. That's not tenable. That's not realistic. That can't ever be done.
Well, he's looking at his powers as, how can I help some people? How can I make the world a better place? And she's looking at his powers like sort of in a Zack Snyder kind of way that, absolute power corrupts absolutely, that people are going to be afraid of you if you just zoom in and get their cat out of the tree. There is a scary element to that. And because of Superman and the way they play him in this movie, you don't feel that from the world. You do a little bit. You feel it from the Justice Gang a little bit. And you feel it from Lex, of course. But you understand that he is actually trying to do good. And that sometimes, what's the expression? the paved road of good intentions. What's that expression?
Roads paved with good intentions.
Yeah, you're looking it up. I love
Yeah.
that about you.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
There you go. There you go. There you go. I didn't know it was quite that deep, but okay. It's a complete counterbalance of each other. It's a yin and yang. It is definitely, they are two sides of a coin, and they are two sides of a relationship. So I'm sure this is the first time that they've ever done this. And I don't think he's expecting it to be the way that it is. And
he thinks it's going to be a softball interview.
Maybe, but I also don't
What's it like wearing the tights?
Yeah, where did you come up? Why do you wear your underwear on the outside? I thought they were going to throw that in there somewhere. But they didn't, which is good. I'm fine with that too. But the whole idea that he gets upset and actually loses his temper is a really interesting choice to make so early on in the film. He doesn't really lose his temper, but he does get frustrated and he walks out. Just like any two people having a discussion / turned into argument in a relationship, sometimes you're just like, okay, I'm gone. I'm out. And she's like, are you seriously leaving? And he's like, yep, bye. I mean, that was not something I was expecting from Superman. I just wasn't. But it's not Superman. It's Clark Kent.
Yeah.
And so that, I thought, I don't know, I love that whole interchange between them.
Oh man, you are in the bag for this movie.
I am, dude. I see some of its flaws.
Okay.
We could talk about it. I have a couple of my issues. I have some issues with it. There's a few stylistic choices that they made, and I mean in the CGI designs of some of the stuff that I'm like, that didn't really work for me. But overall, I don't know what more you could do. You could rip it apart and you could say it's this and it's that. And it's not, does it open up Superman to people who don't at least appreciate it on some level? Maybe not. I don't know if anybody who is not into comic books or not into, although it made $250 million already. So, I mean, something's working for it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I am what'd you say? All in the bag?
All in. You're in the bag. Yeah.
I got the red cape on, dude. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I'm coming at this from I haven't watched any of the other Superman movies recently. The ones that I've seen the most are probably the earlier Supermans, the Christopher Reeve Supermans, the first one, the 1978 Richard Donner one, and then also, for whatever reason, Superman 3, I think that we had that recorded on VHS from HBO, and I played that a bunch, which is, I mean, it was Richard Pryor too, so it's like, that's awesome. But I do remember that, and and I think I watched Superman 4, that was the nuclear proliferation one, right? Yeah, okay, so I watched that one a lot, but I really haven't seen the other ones since
The second one is pretty good.
Yeah, and so now are you talking about the Richard Lester one, or the Richard Donner cut? Because I've heard things about both.
I can't keep my mind on what's what with that. All I know is the one that I saw when I was a kid, and I don't know.
Probably was the Richard Lester one. Yeah, because Donner got fired in the middle of production,
but wasn't most of it filmed already?
Yeah, there was a lot that was filmed, and so that's why they were saying the Donner cut has enough footage for it to be an actual movie, sans any of the Richard Lester shot things. So, I mean, that I guess from what I've heard, the tone is a little bit different. It's a little bit more jokey in the Richard Lester cut versus the Donner cut, but either way. So we haven't talked about David Corenswet. We watched him. I don't really know if we talked about him very much, but we watched him in Twisters last year and talked about that movie. He was the guy sitting next to Anthony Ramos, who was trying to get him to. He was on the team. You don't remember him?
We didn't talk about this movie.
Twisters?
No, I mean, you might have brought it up that you saw it in a shortcut.
I think,
but I never saw it.
You never saw Twisters?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, he was in Twisters. Twisters is a good movie. I like it. It's not as good as Twister, but it's a good movie.
David Corenswet was in a show called The Politician, where people in the Broadway arena are going to be mad at me because I can't think of the guy's name. It's called The Politician. It's starring very famous Broadway star. Sorry. It's been a long day. It's been a long week. And
Okay.
I can't.
Oh yeah. I know that guy.
What's his name?
Ben something.
Yeah.
Ben Platt.
Yeah, that's terrible. I don't know his name. Tony Award winner. Anyway, in that, they are having a little rendezvous, and without giving too much away, Ben Platt's character goes, "You're this and you're that, and you even look like Superman." And he calls it out.
No,
yeah. And this
that's
is years
cool.
ago. This is years ago now.
So it was way before he. Okay,
Yeah,
he actually
yeah.
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. That it's kind of neat how that kind of stuff can happen, and then it's like putting it out into the ether, and then it comes in later on. I know that like he also when the day that he was doing his first audition for Superman was the same day that Nicholas Hoult was doing his audition for Superman. So
Have you heard
the
that
fact
story?
That they were in the same room together.
Yeah.
and-
Have you heard that
Man.
story? Nicholas Hoult was coming onto the soundstage or wherever, and a bunch of people were sitting outside, and David Corenswet was sitting in the only beam of sun that was coming through the building, right? Or coming through the alleyway. And he was like, okay, yeah, I guess he's like charging up. Now, I don't know how much this is the truth, but this is what Nicholas Hoult said. And then
That's
when
cool.
David Corenswet stood up, he was like, you're taller than me. Nobody's taller than me in
I didn't
Hollywood.
know Nicholas Hoult was 6'3", is what they said.
David Corenswet is 6'4", and I think Nicholas Hoult is 6'1" or 6'2".
Okay, so
They're both
then,
tall
yeah.
for Hollywood.
That's tall,
cool.
yeah, for a leading man. Yeah.
So David Corenswet was also in a show called Hollywood.
Okay.
That was. So I have seen him.
Was that a Ryan Murphy?
Ryan Murphy.
movie? Oh, okay.
So is
show?
The Politician. Yeah. So I am familiar with this actor pre-Superman. Anyway. So
Okay.
anyway.
Wow. Yeah, I hadn't seen him other than in Twisters. And so yeah, seeing him. I mean, it's probably the best case scenario. It's kind of like Daniel Craig as James Bond. It's like you haven't really seen him. Or I mean, I know he was in Road to Perdition and things like that, but you hadn't really seen him, in a starring role until he shows up as James Bond in Casino Royale. And similarly, we have a Superman. I guess Brandon Routh was a similar thing. Nobody really knew too much about him.
So was
before he
Christopher Reeves.
So yeah, very very similar.
And so was Henry Cavill, if you think about it.
Yeah, I'm sure he was in some, whatever.
Aren't they all in
Gosford
a British
Park.
show somewhere?
Seems like everybody. Yeah, everybody
Yeah.
was in Gosford Park. I don't know.
Or
Everybody
Game of
and,
Thrones.
and
Yeah.
Ryan Phillippe for some
Yeah.
reason was in Gosford Park.
I just
But-
recently saw that, actually.
It's been a while, but I remember I was like, I have to see this because it's Robert Altman. And then I watched it and I was like, okay, this is fine. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think that if I go back to it, there's probably a little bit more intrigue. And that was way before I guess it was after Upstairs, Downstairs, but then it was also before the, the whole
Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey
Years
thing.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so it was kind of a primer for the Downton Abbey like vibe, I guess. But
Well,
yeah.
back to Superman really quick. What's interesting about these unknown actors, finger quotes, is that, I guess I can do finger quotes in the video, is that this part makes them a star. This is their star-making role.
Yeah.
It's not like they were already a star and they took over this role, or they took on this role, like Robert Pattinson, Ben Affleck. But I think Batman's a little bit different of a character. There's a different, you're covered, and there hasn't been anything but famous people playing Batman,
Yeah.
to some people's negative reactions. When Michael Keaton was cast, it was not. Kevin Smith says the funniest thing: it broke the internet before the internet even existed. Yeah. So anyway,
Well,
Dave, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say. I mean, that they're probably looking at that like they're like, wait, the guy in the comedies?
Yeah, it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Unless they saw Clean and Sober, which was a movie he did about being an alcoholic. And there is a shot in there where he's walking down the street with a long coat on, the 80s long coats.
Trench coat.
Yeah, trench coats. I had like 3. I loved them. I would wear one now if I could fit into it, if I could find it. Anyway, and there was a moment where he kind of turns, and I was like, that's interesting. Maybe that's what Burton saw.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to David Corenswet as Superman. I thought he was perfect.
I don't have any complaints. Yeah, I mean, I think that he was able to do that kind of earnest. I don't even necessarily see him like smiling that much, but he's just very just like honest, earnest, that here's what it is. I'm here, whether he's Superman or whether he's, I mean, he doesn't spend too much time as Clark Kent, but it doesn't seem saccharine. And I think that's the kind of like the benefit, especially when he goes back to Kansas and when he spends time with his family.
Perfection.
Yeah.
Perfection.
And that's where it could ride along the line of where I think we may be kind of transitioning back into more earnest and more genuine characters in movies. I mean, we've kind of gone down the road of cynical characters and maybe we've hit the termination point and all we can do is bounce off that wall and come back. I don't know.
Well, right now, this is the Superman we need. In the world we live in now, this is the Superman we need. And all over Facebook, kindness is true punk rock. Is that the line? Kindness is punk rock.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. And I think that two things. I think the dialogue that David Corenswet had to deliver was very difficult. What the hey, dude, when he's talking to Crypto. I mean, who says that? And he says it perfectly. And then do you notice when he's talking to Lois and his voice kind of changed in the interview into Superman? When he makes the smart ass comment about, okay, Cronkite, his voice lowers into the Superman voice. And then
it says Superman doesn't do that. And it's like, oh, you're now talking about yourself in third person?
Yeah. And then he's very human, and they make it a part of the movie to say, hey, I'm not perfect, I'm not this, but that's what being human is about. Unlike what Lex wants to be. Lex wants to be perfect. Lex wants to be Superman and being the strongest person in the room, and the only way he can do it is through his mind. And in the Snyder version, Alex, resents the fact that he's not revered as being the smartest guy in the room. He even has that long, weird speech at the party and blah, 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 which I don't think is done very well. I don't think that's Eisenberg's fault. I think it's a combination of a lot of different things. But so the earnestness is true. It's real. It's part of the character. And so when they go to Kansas, to the Kent farm, it's the very first time I've ever seen it look realistic. Because every time I've always seen it in the comic books or in other iterations, the animated series, Smallville, it always looks like they're kind of rich because they live on this huge farm. This is like a 2-bedroom rancher in the middle of a farm. And the way that they talk is genuine, and the conversation he has with his father is genuine, and the advice that he gives him is genuine, and the way that his mother is kind of always sort of in the background pulling the strings and making fun of Mush and making fun of Pa and give him a little bit of a hard time, but that's exactly Paul Kent's superpower, is his mushiness. So it's done in such an honest, sincere way that it would take a very cynical person, which I thought was going to be you, a very cynical person to not groove on it. Because even if the world is a very cynical, dark place, which it is, there's hope and dreaming and imagination and magic all over it. We're doing it right now. It's magical what we're doing, having this conversation. At least for me it is. So there's all of these things. Just because the darkness exists doesn't mean that the true honesty can't come through it. And I think we need it right now. And I think the tone is just right. There's a scene in the trailer that was cut out, sort of there, but cut out, when he walks into the office, when he's coming in for the first time as Clark, and his hair is all curly and his glasses, his hypno glasses. Oh, I loved it. That's
from the comic book, right?
Absolutely, it is. There's a precedent.
It's fine. I don't have a problem with it.
That's exactly what I said. I said, in this world, and they do it a couple times in this movie, but when he walks past the guy and he's like, "You're a loser," in the trailer, he turns and goes, "No, you're a loser," and he's very much a loser saying it back to him. But they altered it in the movie version. So I think what James Gunn, at least from my perception, is that he went with honestly what he thought Clark Kent would say, honestly what Superman would say, honestly what Lois Lane would say, honestly what Guy Gardner would say. And because it's true to the nature of the characters, it's true to the nature of this narrative, it's true to us. At least that's how I saw it.
Even though I don't know Guy Gardner, I can like within 20 seconds understand his whole thing.
He's worse. Jeez. He's way worse in the comics and the animated stuff.
I was trying to keep an eye on like what he like. Did you realize he was like throwing up like middle fingers?
I loved it
to those guys on the beach.
The best part about that is, which is sort of a small little technical thing, and it's just a small little thing. When he flies, he's usually surrounded by a glow of green, and I get why he didn't do it, because he looks cool flying without it. But when he flicks the ring, it glowed, but that's all it was a flick, because it's a mind over ring situation. So he just flicked it. He didn't need to have a beam of light coming out to do all of those middle fingers. And I love the fact that it starts off with the middle finger and then goes to like a regular hand that smacks the next truck, and then it's finger. And I was like, that's hilarious. I loved it.
It's all that little stuff. Like, and I know there's going to be way more things in there that I just did not even clock, because, you know, even like the fight with the whatever, the little guy who grows up that they sick on the town.
The kaiju. Yeah.
The kaiju, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also done really well, where I think that James Gunn is going the opposite way from where Zack Snyder went, where he got in trouble by a lot of people watching the Man of Steel when Superman and Zod just like lay waste to Metropolis, I guess. I mean, like all of these different buildings, and people really had a problem with that, and I understand that. And it was like there's so much collateral damage, and Zack Snyder reacted to that by having Batman versus Superman and Ben Affleck running into the blah blah blah. You know, yes, I understand. He retconned that into being a plot point in a future movie, so that's fine. But it seems like James Gunn is going a step farther, to where he doesn't even want this kaiju to like run into a building, so he's gonna stop it in midair and get him to stand up, and then like somehow get him to not crush a puppy and push the puppy out of the way and save a squirrel.
But the best part about that is that he gets to use his
freeze spray.
Yes. It's a very smart way to do that. It's an extremely smart way to get that power in there.
Did he use his laser eyes? I don't
he does at one point where he's looking through a building, isn't it? Or he's looking through some. No, he does.
Does he? Okay.
Yeah, he does. I think he does. Okay. I've only seen it once. I've been dying to see it again.
But it wasn't like demonic laser eyes.
And it wasn't this weird like looking through people when I'm having a problem when I was a kid and I have to go hide in this
I'm
school closet.
Are you talking about? You're talking about X-ray vision. I'm talking about like lasers coming out of his eyes.
Oh yeah, a couple of times.
Okay.
He gets up there and spins around and shoots all those guys with this.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
It's like
I was thinking of like him just like, you know, sniping people or something, but yeah, I mean, he wouldn't do that. That's where I like it didn't seem like it would fit in, but either way, like it does seem like James Gunn is kind of trying to like foster this, you know, this person who doesn't want anything to get hurt. And then we also see that reciprocation when he gets slammed into the ground, and then the guy who sold him a falafel once, you know, goes down to pick him up, and then of course he gets sucked back into the whole situation later. But then that's kind of like the people coming to help him. You know, that's the people kind of reciprocating the help that he's given them, you know, for this one time when they could potentially help him out. So, we've seen it in other movies.
Yeah, it's a comic book trope. It just is. Yeah. Okay, side note, first very minor negative thing. I didn't like the kaiju. I didn't like the way it was designed. It looked too much like we got to sell a toy. I know that this wasn't their intention, but it just looked too something. I thought it was cool. It looked more vicious when it was smaller. And then when it got larger, I thought it should have been just
More
sharper,
menacing.
more just sharper. It's a the eyes are on the side of the head, so it's a
Yeah.
little bit
It was very squishy and it had
Yeah.
a big, huge mouth.
yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah.
just I get why he did it. I don't know. Like if you look at its feet and its hands and the whole body of it, it's very menacing. But the face is just weird looking to me. It just was too cutesy in a way.
This
and
is the
and I
guy.
get
Hold
it.
on. Yeah, James Gunn is the guy who had one of the bad guys in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 puke rainbow sparkles. It's when they're getting the Harbulary batteries.
Yeah,
which
yeah,
are
yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
Harbulary batteries.
No.
It's when they're going to get those batteries, and then a thing comes in from another dimension.
Oh
and
yeah,
and
yeah.
it, like,
Got it. Yeah.
spits
Got it.
up all the
Yeah, I don't
the
like that
rainbow
either.
dust. So it's
Yeah, I
kind
don't-
of like.
I don't
Oh, you
really
didn't like that.
that
Okay.
monster either. And there's a few designs in a few of the Guardians of the Galaxy. There's just tips it too far over into. I mean, it's a comic book movie. It's a small, minor gripe, and it's not even really a gripe. It did not bother me in the least.
This is also the guy who started off like in Trauma too. Like he was making Trauma movies. He was doing kind of like exploitation horror early on. So I mean, he may lean towards that just for fun, and want to get that stuff in there.
That said, I did like the fourth dimensional imp that the Justice Gang was fighting outside the window, and the best part about that was that everybody was trying to guess what that was in the
on the
still.
pictures, yeah, early on,
and they were like, "Why isn't he in the fight already?" And
he's getting suited up.
It's Starro again. Who is that? Bah! And it turned out to be. Oh, they got it. I love that. I thought that was great.
So that was James Gunn trolling people by putting out a picture of that, and then being like, "It has nothing to do with the movie."
Not at all. Although it might have something to do with the next movie, because everybody's ablaze about who that fourth dimensional imp is, because there's a couple of choices that would be very interesting to see on film, and one of which being Batmite, which is a character James Gunn loves and has said that he loves and has mentioned in Peacemaker the first season. So, but it's how he utilizes those unknown characters or those little known characters. It's how he uses it to push the narrative forward, because the reason why it's in Peacemaker is for a very particular reason, not a huge reason, but a particular reason. So I love that.
Yeah, it's like an undergirding as opposed to just like a one-off. It's not there just for lip service. It's there to actually push forward the story. So that's great.
Or trying to put a character in a movie and utilize them because you want to put that character in a movie versus having a reason that character's there, So it was interesting to me, the three Justice Gang members, and I've never heard them called the Justice Gang before.
Isn't that a joke? Aren't they like they haven't landed on the Justice League name yet?
Yeah, but most everything seems to have a comic book precedence, with the exception of Baravia and the Hammer of Baravia, all made up for the movie.
Yeah.
And that's a great fight sequence. And
But the Hammer of Baravia is Ultraman, right?
Correct.
Okay.
But the Hammer of Baravia and the country
Baravian, president,
all made up for
the Baravian
this.
president from Triangle of Sadness.
Oh, that's who he is.
That's who he is.
That's so great that's who that is.
Yes.
I'm a little disturbed by it, to be honest with you, now that I know it. What a weird thing. But I get it. I totally get it. So I thought it was interesting. Why did he choose these three characters? Now, Mr. Terrific is an easy answer, obviously, because he is a badass.
He's Iron Man.
Yeah, he's Iron Man. He's probably the best thing in the movie for me. If you had to say what's the first, what's the second, that fight sequence where Lois is in the dome is fantastic.
Yes.
I mean, it's Rocket's fight scene from one of the Guardians. It's similar, but so what? It totally works. And once again, it's about the smarts of the person, the intelligence of the person, and what that person could do for good versus Lex Luthor. So they are like totally the antithesis of each other. So that's interesting. But why those three Justice League characters? Because all three of them have been Justice League characters at some point in time. why those three? Now, Hawk Girl's easy because she's cool, but why those three? Why not something more familiar? Then I was thinking, oh, well, maybe that's exactly why. Because they're not as familiar to people. So if you put in Jon Stewart's Green Lantern or Hal Jordan's Green Lantern or somebody else, that the Flash or somebody else that we know, it might take away from the story of introducing Superman and the DCU into our lives. And as soon as Hawkgirl screamed that high pitched, I was like, okay, I'm good. Whatever she does from this point on, I'm good.
Yeah, it might be similar to.
I loved it.
It might be similar to casting, Tom Cruise as the next Superman. It's like, but he's Tom Cruise. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, every time you look at him as Superman, you're going to be like, but it's Tom Cruise. So similarly, they're casting David Corenswet, who people don't say like, well, but that's David Corenswet. Like, people don't normally, aren't going to normally do that. So in the same way, they're not going to be like, wait, wasn't the Flash just Ezra Miller and now it's a different person and they look different and it's they have a different costume. Like, it would just be more confusing. I think that's kind of where they, and they probably learned from Marvel too. They started, because they had to, because they couldn't start with Spider-Man. They had to start with, Thor and Iron Man and Captain America, and it's what they had. So they had to make it relevant. And so they figured out good stories and engaging stories and cast the right people and put the right people in place.
There's the exception to the rule, Robert Downey Jr. Now, granted, he's well known, but
he'd been out of the game for a while because he was literally in jail. So, he'd had a career, lost the career, and now this was kind of like a
he's
rebirth.
A playboy in real life, and it made sense, but still, very well known actor
that's
playing
true.
the part.
It was definitely a risk to cast him as Iron Man.
John Favreau knows. He knew. Because he was like, I'm not making the movie without him. When they discovered that was him, he was like, I'm not doing it without him. And it was a little bit of an upward climb. So anyway, back to the Justice Gang really quick, just to tie that up. Yeah, it was interesting. You don't know anything about the backstories of these people. All you know is the situational need for them in this world at this moment. And that's essentially the whole movie. The whole movie's like that. You don't need to know how Lex discovered pocket universes, although he does. He kind of mentions it a little bit. All you need to know, you don't know anything about those tubes that they go through, although that's kind of known in the DC world. So when you introduce a character like, they call him the Elemental Man in the movie, but he's Metamorpho is traditionally what he goes by. When you're introducing that character, that's a very specific need for that character. There's a very specific need that character fulfills. And he's also an anti-hero because he can be good and bad, which they throw in there, obviously. And then you realize on a split second, that's brilliant. Of course, that's who to be able to create kryptonite. And they make it a thing where kryptonite doesn't really exist as much. Probably Lex has some, but not as much as he would be able to develop it with his hand like Metamorpho does. Yeah.
And they give that character a motivation immediately. It's like, you don't need to know anything. He sees that baby and you know exactly what's going on and you know exactly why he's doing what he's doing. And it also keeps an opening. He's not just like an unfeeling sociopath. He is someone who's put in a position, forced to be in this position, and has to choose what to do next. And so we get to see that character struggle alongside the situation that Superman is a part of. Did you know that's Andrew Corrigan, or Andrew Carrigan, I think is his name. He was in Barry. Did you watch that? Yeah, you did.
I loved it.
Yeah,
and I thought
you did. Yeah, you talked about it. Yeah,
I thought he was a standout in that. Yes. So when I heard he's playing this character, I was like, "That's perfect."
No, Hank, I didn't know that was him until afterwards.
You gotta love that. And I mean, he's very open about having alopecia, and that must have been difficult. And I just heard him interviewed about what it must have been like to be an actor who had hair, and then when he started losing hair, they were all like, well, you're done. And then he embraced it, and he accepted it, and he moved on, and he has figured out how it's insignificant in some things and significant in other things, where the makeup artists for this movie were like, yes, we don't have to worry about any of that stuff. We don't have to worry. And probably it was like a bonus. And plus, he's really good. I think he was Emmy nominated a couple times for Barry, if not at least once.
Yeah.
So he's a standout. Side note, the only other negative thing that I have to say, or minor negative thing, I didn't really like the baby. I didn't really like the baby Joey.
Baby looked weird. Yeah, it was a weird alien baby.
Well, but it looked computer generated and not real. It's there's a difference. You can see something that's CGI, and it still allows you to believe that that's real. I don't know why they just didn't not use a real baby, but and they might have. I don't know how they did it, but I don't know. It just was too computer generated.
It stuck out. Yeah, it stuck out. Yeah, okay.
It bothered me a little bit, not much, because that baby's super cute, and everybody was like, "Oh, leave the baby alone." Everybody was like wanting that baby to be saved, and as he's holding the baby up, and
yes, I know that was the part that I was just kind of like, "Oh man," I mean that looked a little rough to me, and I know they were trying to make it like
rough.
Little like it looked like the Lego movie, It was like a little digital
Minecraft.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that part was a little rough to me because like
it worked later on in the rift going through the city. It totally worked there. But it was just too much.
The hard part for me was like I know in this movie, in this situation, this baby is not going to be harmed, and so like the stakes weren't there, whereas. We have to talk about Eddington because I just watched it last night and I can't stop thinking about that movie.
Okay.
You don't know what to expect in that movie. That movie will mess you up, but it's so good and it's hilarious. So it's really good. But that movie,
somebody needs to make a movie about your life.
What?
Because you are complexly, perplexly interesting. The things that come out of your mouth sometimes, and because I know who you are, and I know where your soul is, and I know where your heart is, and then when you say things like that, I'm like, because you introduced me to Dogtooth.
That's right. 25th anniversary this year.
I know I saw something. I flipped the page really quick. Or no, I scrolled up. I was like, nope, not doing it.
Is it 25th? No, it's the 15th. I don't know. But there's some sort of anniversary, I think, yeah.
Well, I'm fine with the whole comic book look of the pocket dimension and the baby and all that other stuff. It gets you to see Metamorpho's powers and how strong he is and what he can do. And the thing that I found interesting is that when I hate to say the falafel guy, what was his name? It's like, it was something with an M, wasn't it? I am not good with names tonight.
I don't know.
Ben Platt. Well, when he gets, spoiler alert, I'm going to pause, let people know that, when his demise happens, the way that is shot is really impressive because you see nothing, but you know everything. So when the stakes are really that high and Lex Luthor, and he shows who he is, and the whole gatekeeper float guy, the whole creepy Scream looking guy who did the Wrath, what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, that he
not Scream as in ghost.
No, but
face,
he's like white-ish, like gray-ish. He's like one of those like 1950s aliens, but not.
I was like, knock, knock. Peter Jackson would like you in another Lord of the Rings movie, dude, because you are creepy. So that stuff being so real and Lex being so vicious and so, he's a murderer, obviously, and he murders somebody in front of you. So the kind of lighthearted baby at stake thing didn't bother me because it was comic booky and because it had a purpose. It later has a purpose. That whole sequence, if it had just been a sequence to be a sequence in, Lego, Minecraft, Rainbow.
Yeah. Oh, we got through this level. Now we get to go to the next level.
Right.
Yeah.
But it comes back. And I think that's some of the greatest parts of this movie. Everything is utilized one step at a time. Everything comes back. Everything is utilized. And I love that. I thought that was great.
Yeah. I mean, I don't actually, I mean, I don't think I had as much like at stake with this movie as you did. And the fact that you really enjoyed it, you know, as much as you did, and you only had a couple of little nitpicks, like that says a lot. I mean, I didn't have anything that completely like just got me like to the point where I was like, nope, this is dumb. I'm done. You know, I didn't ever check out on the movie.
I thought you were going to hate it.
Really? No,
Yeah, I did.
no. Maybe I was just in a good mood that night. I don't know, but
Maybe you were put in a good mood because you're going to a movie to be entertained. You're going to a movie to learn something about how you feel about the situation you're watching, all of that deep crap that we put on entertainment known as movies. But in the end, it's satisfying in its once upon a time approach, and they lived happily ever after. You shut the last page of the book. It is pure storytelling at its best. Now, third, and I said there were three minor negative things. There are some jumpy pacing issues. You go from this kinetic energy to all of a sudden, boom, somewhere else. And there's a little bit of a flow issue in some of the structure of the film. It does. The pacing in places is weird. Not necessarily the pacing in the actual sequences, but how it goes from one thing to the next can be jumpy. And I probably need to see it a second time to actually say, oh, that moment. Oh, that moment.
So, okay, you've seen all of the MCU movies very recently because you said you were rewatching a lot of them, or all of them, I guess. So how do you feel like the editing in a lot of those movies, even in the James Gunn Guardians of the Galaxy movies, do you feel like that is similar to Superman, or do you feel like that is more well done? Or because in a lot of those movies, they've got way more characters, way more characters, and they're able to kind of like keep it on in the lane of, you know, okay, everybody's kind of ramping up, or everybody's kind of at a lull, or, you know, we're not really like cutting from like two people eating Fritos to, you know, somebody who's, you know, riding on the light bridge. So I think that they have got that figured out to a certain extent.
The Rainbow Bridge from Thor?
Yeah.
What? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not, they don't do that on the Marvel side. So did you feel like there was because there wasn't as much intercutting either, where it's like these characters are doing this, these characters are doing this. It seemed like it was kind of like, we're going to sit with these guys for this scene, we're going to sit with those guys for that scene, and we're not going to intercut between them. We're going to let it play out and then move to the next thing. So how did is that kind of like, if you're going to directly compare it to Marvel movies, do you think that the Marvel movies have a better handle on it? Or, I mean, did you, I guess
I wouldn't say necessarily a better handle on it. I did think about this because I thought, why are the Marvel movies seem so much more realistic? They seem like this is a particular world you might visit. And I think the Fantastic Four is going to pull the same thing, obviously, because it's a different Earth. So I was wondering why things are so much different in Marvel movies than they are in DC. They're different characters, they're different tones, they're different realistic. I mean, you have a woman who has wings. You have a guy who has a green ring that gives him all power. You know, I mean, look how well Mr. Terrific came across, because you got to see the realistic value of what he can do. Now, granted, they gave him the real costume, and his is the closest to the comic book or the animated stuff that I've ever seen. The other two are wearing similar things, but this whole Max Lord thing that they work for sort of is their what they call them, what did he call them? Their cloak? No, the cloth. We're people of the cloth. And she goes, cloth, and he goes, like, we're wearing costumes, but those are not what they wear in the comic books. So I guess the answer to your question is they're just two different universes. They're just two different worlds, and tonally they got Superman right. So if this is the tone of DC going further in the future, then I'm okay with it, because the Suicide Squad, Guardians of the Galaxy, as a matter of fact, I saw an interview with James Gunn talking about end credit scenes and why these two end credit scenes lead to nothing. They only are like kind of fun. It's because when they ended it was an Endgame with the Guardians getting Thor, and then they still had to do Guardians 3. He was like, I can't write Thor. I don't know how to write that character. And I didn't really, thanks guys for the update. He didn't want to put Thor in his Guardian movie. So he didn't. And, the Guardian movie, I guess, happens before all of that, obviously. And so his tone to the Guardians films are completely different than the rest of the Marvel films, but they're also fantastical because they're in different universes. They're not, or different parts of space. Well, universes. They're not based on Earth, in New York, outside of New York, blah, 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 blah. And so when you see the magical characters, it's later on with when Thanos is introduced first, because that's sort of magical. And then you have certain characters that lead you down those roads. But really, all of those characters in Marvel are based in realistic beings here, not in multiverses until, of course, Doctor Strange and all that. But look how fantastical that movie got. Look at those monsters that they use in that. That could come right out of this movie. So I think, tonally speaking, DC's just a different world. So I think they handle it extremely well. And to compare the two, I started to think doesn't make any sense. It's like comparing, here we go with the Beatles analogy. It's like comparing old Beatles to Sgt. Pepper's. They're two different bands at that time. Ticket to Ride and Lucy in the Sky are two different bands. They're the same band, but there's two different universes there. And so DC is one universe, Marvel is the other. So tonally, I think they handled it extremely well, because if you look, and I love DC, I lived for it when I was a kid. I wasn't very attracted to Marvel characters, and it might be because the realism behind them. So I think if you look at DC, they're a little, it's a little hard pressed to believe those things really exist. Like Scarlet or like Black Widow. That's not hard pressed to believe. No. Hawkeye, not hard pressed to believe. Iron Man, not hard pressed to believe. And even the Incredible Hulk being messed up by gamma rays, not that hard to believe. And how they do it is really well done. And, other than Asgard, and then if you think about the Thor movies, they are different than the other Marvel movies because they're not based, except for the first one.
Yeah.
And think about what Kenneth Branagh did. No, we're going to go to Asgard, but we're bringing him to Earth, and he's going to be
fish out of water.
Yeah, he's going to be condemned to live in Midgard, and that's it. And so all of that is based in Earth, which is smart because you needed that character to start to feel like it could be in this world. So I don't know, that's a long-winded answer to your question, and I don't know if that answered your question, but I think they're two different worlds, and I think tonally James Gunn figured DC out. So from here on in, the DCU is, if it's tonally like this, then I'm all about it.
So we haven't really talked about Crypto, the dog.
Loved it.
You did? See, I was fine with it or without it. It didn't seem like Crypto really did anything other than bring him back to the Fortress of Solitude. But really, like, Crypto's just there, I guess, maybe so that when Supergirl has her cameo close to the end, that she's there to pick up her dog. I mean,
Crypto is Superman's dog, so that's why Crypto's there.
Well, she took the dog,
that is what they're putting into this movie. Because, because of Supergirl's the next movie being Supergirl, A Woman of Tomorrow, I think it's called, where she fights Lobo. What?
Which is Jason Momoa?
What? Always should have been. Always should have been.
That makes sense, I guess.
So good.
So wait, he's in DC and he's Aquaman, and he's in DC and he's Lobo?
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
Because it doesn't matter.
Well, one is DCU or whatever DC. What do they call
EU.
EU, and this is the DCU. So it doesn't make a bit of difference. And also, I mean, I'm trying to think, are there any Marvel characters that played other characters in other films? I know that they've crossed
that has
over.
Definitely happened before, and I'm trying to remember.
Well, I know they've crossed over from DC to Marvel and back and forth.
Yeah,
At first,
there's definitely somebody who's played in two different things. I can't pull it right now, but yeah, it was I can't remember.
that have been in DC and Marvel. Well,
that have been in Marvel in two different things. Whether it was like a Marvel TV show and a Marvel movie, or a Marvel movie in different things. But yeah.
Well,
but
anyway,
you're right, because like
about
Chris Evans played obviously
the Human Torch,
Johnny Storm, and also
Yeah, and there's something else. There's somebody else. But anyway, back to Crypto really quick. Here's the reason why Crypto mattered to me. First of all, talk about getting CGI right. That dog looked real
good
all the time. And the parts of when he's flying around and when he knocks that guy's helmet off or takes that guy's helmet off and they bust him in the teeth and teeth go flying and hit the screen and hit the lens of the camera. That was ding, ding, ding. Great. Here's not a reason to have Crypto, but how to make a justification for Crypto to be in the film. He's a dog, and he's a crazy dog, and he's an out of control, super powered dog. It doesn't matter why he's there. He's Superman's dog, at least to our knowledge up to that point. And when he starts to eat the T-spheres, and he's eating those circles. Those are T-spheres. That's a great moment, first of all. And then that plays out later on. Crypto toys. And I was like, okay, I'm good. Yeah. And there's another thing that actually I've talked to a couple people about, and they were like, okay. Especially my brother, who is a Air Force fighter pilot, or was. He is a pilot. So he's flown quite a few planes. We've talked about him before. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I just didn't buy Lois being able to get into Mr. Terrific's spacecraft and fly it away. And I was like, but they handled it in the world with one line when he said, it's instinctual. I was like, okay. Okay. Because that happens all the time, where a character does things that there's no way that they'd be able to do. All you have to do is put that one line in it.
But also it's setting up the joke of her, it's instinctual. And they're just like, whoa, okay.
So. It would have been good for her to kind of look and see what he was doing, just because she's Lois Lane. And that's what she does. She's, an investigated journalist. So that would have been good. And then that could have played in later on. And of course, could she have gotten in there? Who knows? I don't know. I don't know the realistic aviation things. And actually, my brother was talking about simulation and stuff like that, how people think because they play video games that they can do that. And he's like, they crash almost every time, especially on landing and taking off. But in the world of this movie, because that's kind of the motif of the podcast, that in this world, that line makes that work for me. And I'm good with it at that point. Yeah. So, yeah.
So post-credit sequences, we could talk about those real quick. I mean, they were funny and fine. But yeah, the one with him and with Superman and Mr. Terrific.
The best.
Kind of just
being best.
Like,
the best. Because how many people, when you were watching it, thought, well, that building's not really put together exactly. That didn't go back exactly the right way. And then they call it out on their own. Yeah. They in this world, they made you know, we know. And
and that prevents it, like shuts down any kind of trolls that would go online and be like, it's not even good. You can't even put things back together. It's like, what are you gonna do?
He's wearing red tights or red underwear out on top of blue tights or whatever you call this costume, which everybody complained about. But I thought it was great that it moved and it bent and it wasn't skin tight and everybody was seeing his muscles and saw that other stuff. I did say muscles. I said it on purpose. And I love the fact that you see kind of a more rich character in Mr. Terrific, where he's like, fine. And he does that Jerry Maguire moment at the end. Fine.
Because he also it bugs him. It bugs Mr. Terrific.
And he's all calm, cool, and collected throughout. Oh, that's what do you, me? When the lady's like, can you fix this? And he was like, me? What are you talking about? But he's still calm. He's still very intellectually motivated. And so to see him like flip out in his own way, I thought it was good. I thought it was clever. And that shot got out into the world. Somebody took a shot of them together. I think that's the first time we saw Mr. Terrific in his costume in, a paparazzi or somebody took it.
Yeah.
And so it was not important.
Nope.
Important. That's great. So
Yeah.
you listen, there's a lot of things going on in the world. There's a lot of stuff. And to be gone for 2 hours in a world that I grew up in a world that I loved, and a world that and a new vision of that world. I love the costume design. I love the tone and the texture and the colors of the costume. It was like kind of this gold and blue thing going on. Very Soderbergh, very this world only. And so, and also, side note, she had a purple sweater on. Lois Lane is wearing a purple sweater. If you know, if you know, you know. Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. At least
her
it is
wardrobe
for me.
was amazing. Like they make her look like a boss, but sexy, but competent, but
and stylistic for that movie.
Yeah.
It blended it whatever that style, whatever they chose to do. It was almost like a retro 70s updated version of bell bottoms and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like a vest. Like, oh my gosh, she
Lois Lane.
Wow.
And I swear I saw purple flecks in her eyes. I think I put it there in my mind, but she has purple eyes in a lot of the animated versions of her. So, and she wears a purple sweater, and it's a thing.
Gotcha.
And so when you see her running through the crowd, you know who it is. And so when she's in jeopardy, you know who it is because she's wearing. So when I was like, stop. At the end when they're standing together, I was like, no, that isn't happening, but it happened. So,
That's so cool.
Not to make it some deep, drawn out thing, but it's nice to get away from the world. It's nice to get away, our world, meaning yours and mine. It's nice to get away. It's an escapism movie. It's fun. It's loud. The fight sequences are great. All of them are great. There's not one that slacks. The one with the Justice Gang is great with Metamorpho coming over. That was great. I loved how he creeped away at the end. Anyway, we're coming up on an hour, so I could spend another hour gushing about the film. I just feel like all the pressure on James Gunn, all the pressure on this world, all the pressure on everybody going back, the trolls going back and forth about, now they're all about Zack Snyder, and before they hated Zack Snyder. Now they're all about, it's like, go to the movies, have some popcorn, and look at honest, truthful kindness. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. All right. Well, you can check us out on the web at actorandengineer.com. You can go to facebook.com/actorandengineer. And we're on YouTube. Just search for the Actor and the Engineer podcast. And we'll see you next time.